Even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. Mm-hmm. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? The broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being...
Canada, apparently they're throwing tariffs on manatee meat and bovine semen, which means The View is very unhappy.
Oh. Tyrus is watching from the sidelines, and what happens when Whoopi Goldberg opens her lips and unintentionally bumps into a sarcastic buzzsaw named Greg Gutfeld. Anarchy pure, magnificent, meme-worthy mayhem she's lecturing the country 1 minute, and then she's psychologically preparing to take a vacation from public opinion. Spoiler alert, her arguments aren't the only ones that fall apart. This is a hilarious automobile collision that you can't ignore, so fasten your seatbelt because it's not a talk show meltdown.
Stay, everyone. Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg, aka Karen Johnson. Yeah, who knew Whoopi was a Karen? I thought that was only for white people, like Toyota Priuses and skiing. Roll it, Francis.
Good morning and welcome to The View. You all saw the news. Whoopi will be back here in 2 weeks. Okay?
It's so cute when one of their side gets punished. They sulk like they ran out of raw cookie dough in the green room.
Goldberg is a whoop, daytime television's self-proclaimed. Philosopher Queen has once again done what she does best, turn inane political banter into a full-fledged interpretive dance of delusions, self-importance, and paradoxes in the galaxy's brain. This time, in a startling irony, she was verbally and intellectually abused by two people who weren't even on the show. It's not simply criticism. It's performance art for the very disoriented.
BBC suspended Whoopi for 2 weeks because she said the Holocaust had nothing to do with race. She said this on a show called The View, which makes everything about race. Except now.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
It's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah, that's heroically stupid. Even for The View.
That's correct. If that doesn't scream legacy and decline, nothing does. To illustrate, consider a typical episode of The View where outrage is the default, setting and facts are optional. Whoopi took a cosmic L from Tyrus and Greg Gutfeld without them ever entering her sacred table of daytime drama, the self-righteous. Rage of Whoopi, who sat atop her throne like a daily oracle of delusional grandeur, was as if she had just been ordered to hold a bake sale for the sake of basic civility.
The problem is that you have to go after the racist people. And if the CEO goes, you know what, I'm not going to allow a woman on my show, or man, that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs. That doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racists on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day, that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus dropped one of their usual late-night truth grenades. No glitter, no cackling background panel, just raw sarcastic facts, and that delicious Gutfeld brand of deadpan mockery that hits harder than Whoopi's coffee win. Someone challenges her worldview after she launched into one of her usual operatic tears, this time about how democracy is apparently being held hostage by anyone who dares to disagree with her latest emotional TED Talk. Well, it was a typical Tuesday in Whoopi land, and the internet happened, somewhere far from the grasp of The View's clapping seals.
Today on The View, otherwise known as Hell's DMV, Whoopi Goldberg asked how much different are the values of the Trump administration from the Taliban.
We have a leader who has repeatedly demeaned women,
Right.
wants to defund organizations that benefit women, calling on the media to shut up, specifically wants to give preferential treatment based on religion. Are these values really much different than the Taliban's?
Wow. Talk about groundbreaking to actually hear a celebrity say something mean about the Taliban. How dare they compare them to Trump? The Taliban should sue. Guess they ran out of Hitler analogies. So as they bash the president, I'm reminded how entertainers rarely express any rage over any strand of misogynist Islamism. If they did, we might take their rage toward Trump.
Greg didn't have to mention Whoopi. He simply made fun of famous pundits who mispronounce Ukraine and insist that everyone educate themselves. Tyrus used a vicious metaphor that destroyed Whoopi's credibility, like Thanos cracking his fingers while he was tall and imposing, resembling a WWE bouncer at a Mensa meeting. Despite the fact that none of this occurred on The View, Whoopi reacted as though Logic had personally delivered a personal attack. She looked into the camera, puffed, and huffed like someone who has just discovered that Gutfeld isn't a spice. Ego and insecurity were on fire, and it was more than simply a tantrum. Whoopi, as usual, refrained from debating and instead declared, slow clapping as though she should be commended for remaining on set, before reverting to her go-to tactic, theatrical fatigue.
On The View, all right, talking about Latinos. Watch this, Tyrus.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
So-
they were begging people to care about it for years. We
Misogyny
need to
and
take some
sexism.
lessons.
That's what that was.
Misogyny and sexism.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sonny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election.
Yes, that iconic sight is Whoopi's go-to gesture when she tries to seem superior, but is tired of fights. Twitter was ablaze with jokes, YouTube comments became group therapy for daytime TV survivors, and even Reddit came together in derision. As the internet roasted her, Whoopi's camera stare virtually demanded to be printed on a t-shirt likely already available on Etsy as memes and videos went viral. Furthermore, this is not new. She's played word games to defend convicted directors, conflates political discourse with violence, and distorts free speech into something she alone can regulate, a quintessential Whoopi.
Oh no, nothing really comes to mind. I was like, Ching, listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be, this should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last, they call them Hitler, they call these things, America rejected them. And instead of coming back and saying, we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game on.
Like a TED Talk combined with a Facebook tirade that miraculously gained a daytime Emmy. Whoopi's tone is one of exaggerated confidence, selective fury, and self-congratulation. Tyrus and Greg, on the other hand, just made sense without even trying, despite knowing deep down that her takes have deteriorated like milk in the Arizona sun. Whoopi chooses to double down rather than take stock. The View prioritizes volume above accuracy. What was the irony? Sitting on a multi-million-dollar set, drinking decaf in justice like it's empathy. She says she speaks for regular Americans. And sure, this wasn't an isolated incident. Whoopi has had many outbursts, from berating the country while making economic mistakes to flip-flopping like a fish on pavement and making fun of moderates.
Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
When facts were Gutfeld and Tyrus spoke holes in the fiction, the Whoopi meltdown, which began with a smug sneer, a monologue full of buzzwords, and applause from bored studio attendees, ends in collapse. It has become a ritual in America, as though confronting her was a sacrilege. Whoopi responded with hurt pride when they criticized celebrity disinformation that wasn't even directed at her. Did they not realize I was in Sister Act? Was her mood. Classic performative victimhood is when someone acts wrong rather than merely wrong. The trick is to make every criticism a personal assault and label it bravery. But true bravery is recognizing when you're in over your head. Whoopi, she's in a kiddie pool creating a submarine.
In that, in The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sonny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back. She was a Republican, but every show and every break, she was nearly in tears because she was being...
Gutfeld is quite skilled at his craft. There is no yelling, only anvil-like punchlines. Tyrus includes blood-sucking metaphors. Together, they calmly and precisely cut through the Hollywood frenzy. Instead of attacking Whoopi, they criticized the ridiculousness of celebrity disinformation. Whoopi, on the other hand, took it personally and broke down on television like a hypocritical candle. The dismantling was a drive-by, not a discussion. What was the irony? She rushed in, desperate to remain relevant, even though Tyrus and Greg weren't even aiming at her. As always, her co-hosts hurried to comfort her, saying things like, "You're so brave, thanks for your voice," and of course, "We love you."
Brains are small, but who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't...
Whoopi. It felt more like a group therapy session for wounded egos than a talk show, but America, social media, and even some longtime viewers didn't buy it because when every disagreement is presented as an attack and every critic is written off as evil, the collapse eventually becomes too routine to be meaningful. When you believe the circus can't get any more ridiculous, we proudly go into the hypocrisy files. The crowd begins to realize that perhaps the show itself is the true issue. A Hall of Fame for Whoopi's greatest contradictions is so perplexing that it merits its own section in the Museum of Cognitive Dissonance. Let's quickly review Whoopi's lengthy and boisterous career, where she has consistently stated the exact opposite of what she said 5 minutes ago, with complete assurance and no recollection of her earlier remarks. Let's begin with one of her chart-topping songs defending Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, the person who went on a hateful karaoke tirade about half of humanity, is correct.
That makes Sonny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull. All right, Kat, did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show had?
When Mel Gibson was being criticized, Whoopi stood up for him because he was nice to her. In the future, she now gives talks on white privilege like the woke Dalai Lama, who claims that racism vanishes on its own unless her Hollywood pals are there. She is all about cancel culture till it comes after her, in which case she turns into a glam squad Rosa Parks. Greg Gutfeld breaks down her reasoning like a frog in a biology lecture full of sarcasm and calls The View a cult of grievance. Wrapped in a bathrobe of delusion, it's outside of Manhattan, and the crowd is wild. What was Whoopi's reaction? One more shriek of right-wing hate, akin to a malfunctioning jukebox stuck in victim mode. Then Tyrus strikes the last blow. This was a mercy killing of poor ideas, not a debate. As if she had lost a battle she was unaware she was in, Whoopi slumps back in shock. She will return, of course, with another hot perspective that is removed from reality. What about Tyrus and Greg? Without even trying, they will continue to prevail because Whoopi's collapse isn't the true narrative. It's because she can be easily dismantled by plain reason alone.